Hey everyone, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. So, this stream just happened on Comic Book News with Dan Shahin. I think that's how you say his name. And he did another similar stream with Steve Jeppy a couple days ago or something, a week ago. Time is all blurred together. I have no idea when he did it, but he did a stream earlier. And then here's this one. The first one was with retailers, and the second one is with publishers. And the way that this started out was very it felt like a press conference, and the whole point of it was like a PR stunt. That's what it felt like. It was a bunch of publishers, mind you, not Marvel or DC. In fact, I don't even think anyone from Image showed up for that matter. These are all smaller independent publishers that showed up, who admittedly probably rely more on Diamond than Diamond relies on them. Whereas if we were talking about DC or Marvel, Diamond's really interested in making them happy. Okay, so there's that. But beyond that, it seemed it was just very congratulatory and like, hey everybody, the country's opening back up. Here we are. It's going to be great. Really positive kind of stuff. The problem is, I didn't hear very many explanations as to why, like what has possibly changed. It was just a few weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago, that we saw the former purchasing official from Diamond saying that they were doing the right thing and everybody else should close down too because it's the right thing. Nothing has changed between then and now. Nothing has changed, other than perhaps the reality has set in that you have to find a new normal. Things aren't just going to change. Okay, so there's that. That's a thing. But I wanted to point this out because it just seems like you can't be critical of what is going on, even in the face of extreme circumstances. Because if you do, then you're called a negative. What are you going to call it? Negative Nancy. I don't know. You're going to be a whiner or a troll, more specifically, if you say anything if you're just being honest about the current state of comics. So what you're supposed to do is pretend like, hey, everything's going back to normal. Everything's going to be just fine. It's just ridiculous. So I want to play this little clip here. I was in the stream watching it. Several other people were in there. Your boy Zach was in there. And so this guy, Dan, who runs the channel of 1.25 thousand subscribers, was managing the chat, and I want to play this for you first.
I don't want to interrupt here, Gary. I'm sorry, I am interrupting. I want to bring something up for a second. This guy. Okay. All right, Mr. Comics Matter. All right, Mr. Comics Gate. I've invited you to be on this show many times. If you want to voice your opinion, come on the show. You've got an open opportunity to really talk about it. Unless all you're interested in is ginning up controversy and making a lot of money by hatred, come on and talk about this industry that you claim to know about. Because you're one of the prime guys that talks a lot of stuff and really doesn't know what he's talking about. So I respect you. I respect your opinions and what you do, but I don't respect this kind of negativity for the point of negativity. I'm sorry to derail the show this way, guys, but this is really important to me.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. So the thing that you're not seeing in the chat is that before that, Zach was making all sorts of comments. He even said that Rich Johnson had a good question, which I actually disagree with. I think it was a terrible question, but that's okay. But he had a lot of very serious comments, just like anybody else watching the stream. But then he had a moment of honesty that people were being too passive in this stream. And so there's a pushback. Now, after this happened, and it was drawn to everyone's attention that Zach thought that it was a passive stream, suddenly these publishers started to ask tougher questions. All right. The chat, it wasn't just Zach, but a lot of people in the chat were saying, where are the tough questions? These are all softball questions. So they started to get just a little bit more, like they weren't agreeing with the optimism for the sake of optimism, which I would say is Steve Jeppy's plan that, I mean, honestly, was his downfall here is he was just being optimistic. Hey, I love comics. People love comics. We're here for pop culture. Think about the Marvel movies. That's something he actually said. So going through all of those kinds of things and being positive for the sake of being positive. Now you could say, was Zach being negative for the sake of being negative? No, you ignored all the comments that he made earlier, and yeah. Anyway, it was kind of funny, but it got people talking. This guy here, Gary, was it Gary Garth? I don't know, Gary Groth. I'm not sure which publisher he is. I should probably look it up, which company he's with. But then he started really stepping forward and asking like, "Hey, I appreciate the positivity, but positivity doesn't put food on the table." He was actually getting into more specifics. He was said in a very nice and a kind way too. Then you had Mike Richardson also starting to push back a little bit against the positivity. Once you could clearly see that Steve Geppi was just trying to paint a positive picture for the sake of painting a positive picture. All right. If there's something behind the criticism, it's certainly not trolling. I mean, there were a lot of valid points and a lot of valid criticism that just gets ignored, and you get turned into a troll for bringing up such questions. So I don't know that anything's really going to come out of this. I think besides you might start seeing more circulation about how Zach's a terrible person. But keep in mind, Zach shipped more books in the past month than Diamond has. Now let that sink in for a minute. How many books have they shipped? How many books has Zach shipped? Steve Geppi himself actually brought up crowdfunding sites as a good solution. Now all of a sudden there's cash flow. He brought that up himself. The guy running Diamond Distribution brought up crowdfunding, saying that was a successful, good route to go. This has become a clown industry. I hope things get better. I mean, I think there are a lot of people that want things to get better, but honestly, when I look at this, I just think the direct market as it has been just doesn't make any sense anymore. The big idea that I heard out of this from Steve Geppi, with all due respect, was that people, was a messaging campaign. Hey, you haven't been into comics. Comics are back, and doing some kind of a big marketing push. Comics are back. Of course, people are going to do that, but is that going to fix the problem? He also said that it was going to be a renaissance, a new renaissance. What makes you believe it's going to be a new renaissance? There's got to be something that's different today than there was a month ago or 2 months ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. There's got to be something that was different, and it can't be just be a post-COVID world, because that in and of itself hasn't made anything better. Tell me what is different and what is going to change. He pushed a lot back onto publishers, making it publishers' responsibilities to change. I'm going to say, sure, if you're a publisher, take some responsibility, and you got to start thinking of other routes besides Diamond. It doesn't matter that Steve Geppi is a nice guy. It doesn't matter that you love comic book shops. You still got to run the business. You got to figure out what's going to be best for you. And again, just like Steve Geppi said here, he's not worried about selling comics. He's worried about selling pop culture. Comics are just a piece of that. So if you're a publisher or if you're a comic book creator, you don't give a rip how many pop figurines they sell. I don't know what those things are called. You don't care about all these other peripheral items, because that doesn't rarely put money into your pocket. You care about the sale of comics. You've got to find a way to do that. It doesn't sound like anything really has changed for Diamond. Not being negative for the sake of being negative. This is the truth as I see it, and I'm glad that some publishers started to sort of warm up. Thanks to some dissent in the chat. One thing here too, don't read the chat unless you can handle reading the chat. I just, like, it's basic YouTube stuff. Anyway, thanks very much. Appreciate you watching, and I will see you next time.